Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lifting Q&A. We know it's been a very long time since you have seen one of these episodes, but they're now back. We will be doing these shows regularly again. So just send in your questions to thelifting@proton.me or get on the Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/the lifting, and send us any Q&A questions you have. And we're going to start doing these episodes again. I think a lot of people really miss them.
Okay, yeah, this, I'll also be revamping the older Q&A episodes and republish them as newer lifting episodes. I never liked how they were just as a separate series, nor do I like the fact that some beings that I channeled back then were over a more dubious nature, let's just say, ones I don't exactly trust now. So I will re-answer, as will current guides, any of the questions we received from the older series, at least the answers in which they came from said sources anyway. Now we call upon true benevolence with no conflicting agendas. So let me see here. Okay, I am reading from something again like we used to do in the old days. So I think you can tell. So I will say also this recording is being done on 3/13/25. And I actually did another affirmation and blessing from the beginning like we used to do. Of course, we'll still do the law of one and do the open circle like we did, but I will read this first. It says, "To the victor go the spoils, where we were once distracted, now no more." And I wrote that earlier. So, Joanna, the law of one.
We are all one, and when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, and loved ones to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones as well, to let healing energies in, to love us and nourish us and bring us to our highest good. We ask for benevolence now with no conflicting agendas to come in and be with us as we do this Q&A. And again, we ask for any malevolent or mischievous beings to just be swept away so that we can have this conversation in peace. And as always, with the greatest of blessings we send your way, we say, so be it.
And so be it. And I now open this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. I'm also not used to reading from a script again, I think you can tell. I think we went on a long time without doing it, and I just went back to it, so. Okay.
And believe it or not, the different folks that we speak to wanted these to be answered by Chris beforehand. That's why we're reading from a script. Instead of just having one person in answering question, they wanted to all be able to come in to answer a particular question. So the only way to do that is if we take the questions and kind of answer
do them manually like we used to.
Do them manually like we used to, because we don't know who's going to come in to answer that particular question. And so that is actually the way that the folks out there would like to see this happen as well, kind of the original format of how we did them. So we're going to stick with that. So we'll get on to the Q&A. And so question number one here: when taking ivermectin for maintenance, can I go 4 days on and 3 days off? Also, can I use that alone, or do I add another ingredient? I've already been through cancer. This is now used for daily living.
Okay. This was Thorsden that answered this. Seems he only answered part of it, though. My dear, yes, go 4 days on and 3 days off. Give your body a chance recovery. And for those that say, tell your doctor, I say, I am a doctor, an MD to be exact. My credentials are sound and my life full of heart space. Next question. Now, I'll answer the other one. From what I understand of it, yes, you can add other supplements and everything. I looked at that fairly recently. So I'm saying that he didn't give the second part to that particular
And we're
question.
not doctors.
And we're not doctors.
We say consult with your doctors, but this is what the Galactics are saying.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, number two. What role does music play in the galaxy and other dimensions?
Okay, looks like this one got split between the page here. Okay. Vesa here with my answer. Music is the language of the cosmos. Most think that it is just mathematics, but in fact, the numbers respond to sound, light, and most importantly, frequency tones. Math is the manifestation of frequency, and most of all then becomes the building blocks of creation.
That's nice. That again's from Vesta. Question number 3. Is our planet and other planets in our system just different realms or dimensions?
This was an extremely long one here. So if I squint a little bit, it's because there's this weird font thing going on here with this copy paste or this typing I did earlier. So once it's in Word, you can't get rid of it sometimes. So Elena here, there are actually passages. They are actually passages to other planes and dimensions, meaning planets. My home of Lanulos, for example, is full of descendants of humans, tall whites, Lyrans, and a few others. However, we are within another dimensional state within what is called the Introverse, or worlds within worlds, the worlds within worlds. We exist on Earth right here with you, side by side, via dimensional portals and by also having an aperture out in the galaxy, which is a created planet out in what Woodrow Derenberger knew as the Ganymede Galaxy. It's not actually called that. We not only needed this to interact with the rest of the Galactic Federation, but with other non-aligned worlds as well, meaning ones that aren't members like Earth. Our world currently guards the largest galactic stockpile of bank resource chips anywhere in the galaxy, whereas one could store their entire resource and financial library on one chip to enter into what she calls the Galactic Commerce and Trade Commission. Sounds almost like a Ferengi type thing to me. It's more likely where Roddenberry got that idea from, or so they claim. If our factory or Fort Knox were robbed, it would put millions and millions of unchecked and unregistered resource chips out onto our version of the black market. Hope this helps. What they're saying by the Introverse, and I'm going to redefine this, it's worlds within worlds. Think the conjunction of the spheres from Witcher. This is actually, I jotted down some ideas. Right here, disclosure in the media reference, the Witcher books series, and the Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition, Wild Hunt, all display with this particular concept. Just look for the conjunction of the spheres. You will find it in the Witcher lore. So this is exactly what she is referring to. So next question.
Sure. Wanting to know about the Amish Mafia or the Cornbread Mafia. Really? Do tell.
Okay, this is going to be a bit of a thing from Wikipedia here that I do have to give context before I read the channeling, so I just put the Wikipedia definition in here. I didn't know a whole lot about this. A friend of ours does, but I had to look this part up, and then Isaac told me some more on top of it. So, the Cornbread Mafia was the name for a group of Kentucky men who created the largest domestic marijuana production operation in United States history. It was based in Marion, Nelson, and Washington counties in central Kentucky. The term Cornbread Mafia was first used in public by federal prosecutors in a June 1989 press conference, where they revealed that 70 men had been arrested for organizing a marijuana trafficking ring that stretched across 30 farms in 10 states, stretching from the Southeast into the Midwest. The story was first reported in the Courier Journal newspaper in Louisville, Kentucky on October 8th, 1989, and then in 2012 in the narrative nonfiction book, The Cornbread Mafia, a homegrown syndicate's code of silence and the biggest marijuana bust in American history, 2012, by James Higdon. I'm going to read a couple little paragraphs here because it was required for context for this. So this when it gets into a subject I'm not too familiar with, I had to do this. So in his first two books, The Origins of the Cornbread Mafia, a memoir of sorts, 2016, and Cornbread Mafia, The Outlaws of Central Kentucky, 2018, author and founding member Joe Keith Bickett chronicles his first-hand account as to how the term Cornbread Mafia was coined in Kentucky in the late 1970s and the group's ultimate downfall in the 1980s. I did put a lot, didn't I? Okay. Bickett wrote his first two memoirs, The Origins of the Cornbread Mafia, a memoir of sorts, Cornbread Mafia, The Outlaws of Central Kentucky, while incarcerated in the 1990s, but did not publish his books until several years after his release from federal prison in 2011. Origin of the name. This is what I should have gotten to here. Higdon's book reports that Assistant U.S. Attorney Clive Gambill said at the June 1989 press conference, the organization is highly motivated, highly motivated, well-financed group of marijuana growers from Kentucky who are responsible for growing this vast amount of marijuana and who call themselves the Cornbread Mafia. Prosecutors held this press conference to lay out their case against the Cornbread Mafia because of the 70 men arrested in association with it. 0 of them cooperated with authorities, which thwarted a continuing criminal enterprise case against the suspected ringleaders. Internal documents describe the proposed CCE prosecution as futile because of the group's collective silence. This code of silence persisted until Higdon published his book, The Cornbread Mafia, in 2012. One more bit here before the channeling comes up here. There's just a little paragraph here. Joe Keith Bickett was released from prison in 2011 after serving approximately 22 years of his 25-year sentence. In 2016, Bickett self-published a first-hand account in his 2016 memoir titled The Origins of the Cornbread Mafia, a memoir of sorts, in which he provides a first-hand account of how the term Cornbread Mafia was actually coined in September of 1978. So that I had to give some background for this because I didn't know. What I knew was from what a couple friends told me. So I wanted to get an actual definition to actually share. And this is Isaac's channeling right here on this case. He added to this. So Isaac here, after what is listed above occurred, or what is listed above occurred, the Cornbread Mafia turned from just marijuana to child and adult human trafficking. They also assist those who wish to dispose of child and adult bodies in cases of murder from abuse, as well as adult domestic abuse cases. This helped dumbass, and then and that's Isaac. So I know that was a long-winded one, but I needed some context there for that particular one. The rest of it is on Wikipedia if you want to look that up.
Sad he didn't get enough time in prison if that was true.
No.
So sad to hear that. Okay, question number 5. Is time truly speeding up, or is it just a perceptual illusion?
Okay. Vesa here, it is not just speeding up, but time is shifting timelines at a much faster rate. Whereas the rate of the frequency of Earth and people shift timelines is greater at some points, as well as lesser at some points. Yes, people individually, this is supposed to be individually shift, people individually shift multiple times a second, or timelines a second, but timelines also wax and wane, whereas universes are either closer together or further apart. This ultimately gives the illusion of time speeding up. It is more or less part of what people refer to as the Mandela effect. Good enough? Accurate references, actually disclosure in the media, Star Trek Discovery, where two of the characters, or one of the characters, which is a time travel agent, said was interviewing the character of Giorgio, the parallel universe version anyway, and basically said because she's a Terran, and basically said that the mirror universe of the Terran universe had spread far apart from theirs and was no longer accessible to them in the 31st century. So that is a beautiful example of what was just said. Star Trek is chock full of those, but this is an individual reference, and this answers the question you had the other night in private where you asked, do timelines wax and wane? And there's the answer right there. So
feels like they must, with some of the things that we were discussing, it would only make sense if they did that. It's nice. I actually like the fact that we have enough material now that you can go back and reference older shows for people to look at to learn more about it.
No.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I intend to do so. I have to go back over it, and I may re-answer the ones that, like I said, were done by a more, what we consider to be a more dubious source that actually gave the answer the first time.
Okay, so question number 6. Chris, have you taught people how to clear demonic entities themselves? I know some will have to use your expertise, but that would be a huge help.
Okay, this is where I answer this. So the thing is, I have attempted this before and it has ended up badly. Whereas someone has either A, misused certain techniques for dark magic, or B, not understood the material and or cut corners by not following energetic magical procedures. And yes, there's a lot of them, folks. I.e. opening and closing the circle. However, I am willing to give it a go again since it is needed now more than ever before. If you want to see videos on certain things like this, on certain techniques on how to get rid of certain specific entity types, please let us know.
And then again, I think you're doing this in some of the people that are working with you in sessions.
In sessions,
you're working with them individually. I think we've tossed about whether we should do, like, let's just say classes,
courses, things
but
like that.
you know, we've kind of balked at that for this reason. It's it really takes time and skill, and so, you know, Chris can work with people individually as they're learning their skills. That seems to be the safest and best way right now.
Right now, but as time goes on, we may see it differently to see if maybe a crowd could learn it as well, or a group, or have recorded videos on it, or something of that nature. So.
As things change, we definitely will if we feel it's okay and not putting anyone in harm's way.
Yes, the last time I attempted this person became more like almost like a Sith Lord, and I'm like, nope, we can't have this. So, but not everybody's like that, and yeah, I'll give people a chance on that. So next.
Yep. It says, why have most channelers just assumed that they all channel beings that are benevolent? Great question.
Yes, that was an excellent one. That one came up very recently on the YouTube and other sources, so thank you. This came from Thorsden. So Thorsden here, all people can become used to any, and I mean any state of being. Say, for example, you have channeled and or were around a particular being and or set of beings your entire life. This right away means that you have not only acclimated to their energy presence, but you have also come to accept anything they say or do, even very bad things. If it is done slowly enough, one can accept almost any state of being or mind. Be vigilant, folks. Also, if you have grown up around a particular religious belief, say, for example, Christianity, this means that you have already come to accept Jesus Christ into your heart. That's true, folks. It has happened. This means that anything outside of that indoctrinated belief system is foreign to you and hence scary. So say one day a being claiming to be Jesus Christ or Archangel Michael comes along and tells you to channel and or give messages to the general public for them. This means you are not only obligated to do so per said beliefs, but then have lost your ability to discern properly. You assume that this being and or set thereof is and or have been there for your highest good and or the highest good of others. See how this begins? Skeptics do this as well. By believing in nothing, they see nothing. Merging both logic and frequency, we can all then evolve. Next question. We like these a lot, and he winked. So that's Thorsden, Isaac's brother, Thorsden. So go on to the next one. Actually, oh man, that's going to be hard for you to read there, but
Glasses. Let me see.
because I answered this one on YouTube. So
okay, I'm going to scoot closer to read it. Okay. Says, I have a question. Well, I might be in a little trouble. I brought a 1900 Indian head penny home, and since I have been looking through a box of pennies, I've had in my house for years, but never paid attention to them. But last night, I had a very vivid dream of a man saying he bought me. I'm pretty good with the dream realm, and I have my own problems. My first thought went to the penny, but I also started watching that show Interview with a Vampire, the new one. I can watch shows with dark beings in it and fighting and things like that. But something about that show was really dark, and I was thinking about it all day yesterday. So that could be the cause of the dream. But if it is the old penny, what do I need to do? I have pictures also. Also, after that show, I felt uneased in my house and not afraid of spirits and beings as long as they don't cause trouble.
Okay, this was on YouTube. You know how small the font is, text is on YouTube. So that's why she was having leading close. So, okay, this is what I answered. I would say, as far as the pennies go, put them in a jar of Dead Sea salt, at least to begin with. If you are, for some unknown reason, ignoring them, there may be a reason for it. Force yourself to look at them, feel it out. It still does not, if it does not feel right, get rid of them. As for the show, there may have been some real thing disclosed, and you were just intuitively picking up on what was real. And with vampires, especially Interview with the Vampire, you better believe they got it accurately. So I believe I said this further down here. I feel, may have had at least a couple of lifetimes around vampires. This is why you recognize and also are uneasy about that particular show. I was that way about the movie, though it is a good one. I was told that the Interview with a Vampire, it's actually The Vampire, but that's where the Mandela effect thing comes in. I'll read it again. I was told that an Interview with a Vampire franchise was the closest to how vampires actually are. That and Blade, on how they tattooed human meat puppets to serve them in many aspects. Hope this helps. And I realized I did not answer part of this. A part of it was with a dream sequence. We've said this before with Dreamtime, the Dreamtime revocations. Just every morning when you wake up, just say, I revoke any and all agreements made in Dreamtime with any malicious being and or beings, and you've nailed it. So this is this, and also don't accept gifts in dreams. Don't go into an open car door, open a building, or open house that another figure in the dream does for you. Anything chases you, turn around and confront it, beat the crap out of it, transform into something, chase it out of there. You will not get harassed much if you continue on that particular thread.
And the same thing with like looking at the internet and looking at websites.
Mm-hmm.
If you open a website and you're feeling really something bad off of it, you want to shut it down right away.
And revoke any perceived tacit permissions that you gave to
by opening the
there.
website. So just remember that if you're feeling it's bad, don't look any further. Close it down and revoke it, because things are coming in that way.
And also, there is a big difference between something negative coming in and something powerful too. If it's overwhelmingly powerful, like we have some of our orgone pieces, it can really feel like you're being pushed by it. Also, some of our sigils, if we stack the sticker sigils on top of one another, it felt like it was really heavy, but when I spread them out, it was just that it was powerful because I had compacted everything. There is a difference. You have to also decide if objects that you have around you and things you have around you are just saturated from a instigator item you have around you, or if it's actually the dense thing itself, or whatever you're looking at is either or. I know that's complicated, but go with intuition each time. So, okay, we can move on.
Okay. In other planets and realities and universes, there's people with different biological structures than ours, correct? For example, skeletal figures of entities that feed themselves through sense only, or even realms where entities don't need to eat or sleep or bathe or even use the restroom like in one of the movies. Is that correct?
Okay, and this is where Fuma answered this one. I like this old format, with the different beings answering the questions. So, Fuma here, young man. Yes, you are indeed correct in your intuitive assertions or assertions. Since the multiverse is made up of literally everything everywhere all at once, this makes all possibilities a true and honest thing. As for the rest of this set of timelines and universe, there is still a plethora of beings that have vastly distinct biologies from your own. But the majority that we have seen, anyhow, are more like ourselves and yourselves. Planet sizes, shapes, makeups, terrains, and breathability also differ as to where a certain species evolved, as was shown in the TV series Doctor Who, over which he and his mother have viewed quite often. A tree was discovered on another planet to be growing Christmas tree ornaments. When a child asks why, the doctor replies, "All things are possible in the universe." Or as Spock in Star Trek once said, "Infinite diversity in infinite combinations." Good enough, Chris? And that was from Fuma. I know he used the infinite diversity and infinite combinations quote to get under Isaac's craw because Isaac is sick of me saying this, so Fuma went ahead and more than likely did that to bug him.
And for some of you that don't understand what he was saying, when he said, like humans and like them, because when we think of something different,
2 arms, 2 legs, head, eyes,
right?
yeah.
So we look like that, and that's the main structure it seems to be of how a being is going to look. Now there are some that look like that are going to look like spiders. There are some that are going to look just completely different. But the overwhelming majority, it seems, is something that's going to be a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, upright and walking.
And some people have ascertained that that was the Anunnaki that made that possible through them spreading panspermian seeds throughout the galaxy. But also some also ascertained that it's a copy-paste of a universal code in the genetics. Truth be told, we came from that, not us creating that. Like in the movie 65. Go see that reference. So it's basically 2 arms, 2 legs, just like you see in Star Trek now, and there's a few that don't fit that particular template. That is the ratio that he's talking about. It is exactly like you see in Star Trek and Star Wars. So very, very similar, if not the same. So next one.
Okay. I saw, and there's different laws of physics. For example, an astronaut who arrived at an Earth-like planet, and he was there for 25 million years, and he came back to Earth, and only 25 minutes had passed. And then another guy who was at another dimension for 100 years, and when he came back to Earth, it had literally been 10 seconds.
I know that didn't sound like a question. That would sound like a more run-on sentence, but that's a question. So, so it's fine. It's fine. I knew exactly what the person said. So, Thor is in here, my man. The answer is, and always shall be, relativity. Just like in the movie Interstellar, the further you get away from Earth, the more time dilates, or at least seems to. Now, as for the $25 million question, that is not exactly possible due to the fact that humans cannot live that long. However, since there are planets, worlds, and dimensions that can slow aging, or at least appear to slow aging, this, in some rare instances, can work out. Very rarely, though. Now, as for the 100-year dimensional life, this had indeed happened, both as going to realm, world, or planet for a few seconds and or minutes, and returning after 100 years have passed on Earth, as well as leaving for that long and returning to Earth to find only a few seconds have passed. Helped? And he shrugs, and that was the end of that. So, and disclosure in the media example, True Blood and Star Trek The Next Generation. In True Blood, the character Suki goes to another dimension with fairies and finds her grandfather had gone there and became a missing person back when he was a young man, played by the actor Gary Cole and Paquin. Well, in that scene, he was only there for a couple of hours. She brings him back to Earth. He ends up dying because he can't handle the shock of the dimensional strain. And he'd also eaten food there, like in mythology, you can't eat food of the underworld where you have to stay, kind of thing. That's where the writer went with it. Charlize Harris went with it. But with that, she was gone for I think it was like 2-3 weeks or something like that. She'd only been there a couple of minutes. So there was a time differential. I hear Lonulus is kind of similar in the respect they showed in the show. And in Star Trek Next Generation, a famous episode where Picard goes to this, they find this probe that scans his head, and then all of a sudden he's in this reality where he's living the life of a person named Galen on this planet named Catan. And that particular society was trying to get him to learn about the society since they had died over 1,000 years ago. That was slightly different, but they showed only 25, 26 minutes had passed. He had actually experienced an entire lifetime of events. Another one was Star Trek Deep Space Nine with O'Brien, where he was incarcerated in a virtual prison for 20, 30 years. He comes out, only 20 minutes had passed. So Star Trek has done this example too, even though that was virtual, it's still similar to what is being said in that particular respect. But then the reason they did it to him is because they didn't want to fill up their prisons, so they did it virtually. Since sentence was passed. So it's a sad episode, but it's actually appropriate to the conversation. So next one.
Okay. In one of the Catholic religions, they believe the dead come back on November 1st, on the Day of the Dead, to feed themselves off the scents and aromas of food and candles and plants. And I believe that these are probably not actually dead. Is it true? What do you think about that?
This was actually very interesting, and Fuma came back. This one came back. He came back with this. Okay. Fuma here to answer this poignant question. The reason beings come in to smell the food, candles, and plants on the Day of the Dead is this. Smells translate into energy and vice versa. As a dimensional being, or one such as myself, the smell smells, we gravitate towards it, meaning they smell it, they gravitate towards it, like you see in the cartoons a lot, meaning like the aroma, like smell animation that they have in old cartoons where they're floating towards something. That's what he was actually saying. As this happens, if there is a major frequency difference, we can, as well as others, can translate the smell into taste. We, as the forest people, can still take the food too, but for others that cannot, that can take on the frequency of the moment, or like in your Matrix 4 movie, whereas Neo is handed a replicated strawberry recreated from the Matrix frequency codes into the real world, other races can do the same. Helps, Chris? Fuma. And then the disclosure in the media example, The Witcher 3 Game of the Year Edition, Wild Hunt, the Blood and Wine DLC, whereas there is a vampire who's hanging upside down in a cave like a bat, but another vampire is telling Geralt of Rivia, he asks why this vampire is staying in this cave constantly and doesn't go anywhere. His vampire friend is telling him there is a door that was right next to him with a crack going down the side of it. And this goes back to the conjunction of the spheres. In that storyline, when the conjunction happened, it threw off all the portal network when that happened. It just discombobulated anything, putting creatures from dimensional states where they were in and thrusting them into ours and vice versa. They showed that humans got thrown into other dimensions too, where all the gravity is pulled at once and flung them all through the portal network of that Worlds Within Worlds, or Introverse. What ended up happening was the other guy was saying he stays nearby because he can hear and he can sense and he can smell where vampires in that particular lore came from. And you can see a crack where you see some light going through it. They can't go into the sunlight very well in ours, but theirs they were just fine. They showed them as dimensional beings in that, which I don't completely agree, but they were showing it in that lore. But the smells were coming through and the sounds and the sights, a little bit of the light was coming through. This is why that he was staying there, in the hopes that one day that door would open when it would probably never open again. So that's what was actually being said. Some races, like or some people, ethnic groups, will take skulls, like we used to have with Isaac. He has the orgone piece outside, or the communication arc or edifice. They would put a bowl of food in front of that. And we knew somebody that did that for Isaac's original cranium too. And he always made the comment, it's like, this edifice doesn't have a mouth or an anus. How am I going to do this? Well, what they were trying to actually show me was they were getting the essence of that, and they could still eat it by taking the frequency of it. V2K technology operates on this very basic principle to harass people, where somebody has a set of presets where they use it to create an effect in someone's mind. Whereas they hear voices, get hypersexual, get hyper angry, sad, piss or shit themselves or do whatever, commit crimes, do whatever. It's because it's based on frequency. And also there's a healing device called the Genius device that will also do the same by replicating a frequency and then imprinting it on a thing or person or water or what have you. And this goes back to the same thing that was said there with the Matrix 4, where you see those scientists taking codes from the Matrix and turning them into strawberries. Now, could they do for that to the entirety of the Matrix and save the planet within that lore? Absolutely. That's how I would have written it. It would require every single person to be out of the Matrix. But yes, that's what they were implying, that it required everybody. It was supposed to be a unity event that would make that possible. That's what the writers were implying with that. So we can move on to the next one.
Okay. Why do different channelers have different information?
That is an awesome question. This is one that I thoroughly am getting kind of tired of myself. A concept out there. You heard Houdini talking about glamour magic and things of that nature. There's glamour magic. That is one of them. That's not the thing that was mentioned here. That's why I had to restate what Houdini had said before. But this is also true as well. So this came from Thorsden. It is because they not only all channel different sources with sometimes vastly different opinions and perspectives, but they are also sometimes channeling negative sources that are lying. Very true. It happens a lot with the channeling community, with the glamour magic in that respect, and also the glamour magic of, just in general, and also different timelines as well. They could be picking up crimes. I saw crimes being committed, looking at a crime, a little girl was killed, and other mediums got different answers for this because they were looking at different branch timelines. The different truths thing isn't really a thing. People just think that it is a thing. Get it? Also, a truth is a truth until a better truth comes along. Sound familiar? That actually means one is advancing their very own perspectives and perceptions. There are no other truths, only different interpretations of those said truths. Good enough for you, Chris? That is actually very accurate. That actually adds on to the channeler conversation we had a while back and the Houdini conversation. So I will put links to those episodes underneath.
And one of the things, there was kind of a similar little bit of a question above, but one of the things that was not, you don't need to do that. One of the things that really was not said between the two are the facts that sometimes people don't realize they've adopted this underlying belief system that if I am reaching out and speaking to somebody, it's somebody of a higher realm who only tells truth.
Yes.
So there is a misunderstanding because people are in a belief system higher than where we are. They're perceived being higher, first of all, and that may not be true.
Mm-hmm.
But second of all, it could be, again, a thought process that says anything that is greater than where we are, which means whomever they're channeling, which again, that could be another human being for all they know, that they were taught that it must be benevolent. And so what we're saying and what we've said all these years is that, you have to really pay attention to who you're channeling because, first of all, it could be another adept human being who's playing the part of something and there to give you misinformation.
Voice of God or V2K tech.
V2K and all that. It could definitely be, a being that just wants to play around, and then you have others that maybe aren't, but again, it's their perspective from their understanding, their perceptions, and everything like that. So it's really an interesting discussion and one that people should be thinking about all the time, as well as what Chris said. Which timeline are you looking at, especially if this is a question about a future? What are they looking at? And so sometimes people only thought that they had the ability to look at one when that's not true. And oftentimes people are talking to things that were in the past, that they're not, the beings aren't even alive, because they don't realize where are they reaching out to, and what are they actually seeing.
Mhm.
So all of those things apply, which makes it really hard, which is one of those reasons why what we try to do is tell people all the warnings and things to think about, but it's very difficult for us to point fingers and say someone is a horrible channeler, because they may not be considering any of this based on previous belief systems, but it's kind of time to update your thoughts on this.
Yes, and I find this also real interesting. There's another component to this that people don't talk about very much, or if they've discovered it, they tend to be fairly hush hush. And I've encountered people not that long ago that were more hush hush about this particular part of the particular subject. There are beings like Draco reptilians and beings of this nature, demonic entities that have put themselves, and galactics do this too, to fight our contaminants and some of our energy friction here as well, and ground this was here. They put themselves in a suit. Like the Untumbans use the typical, samurai armor look, or like Shredder from Ninja Turtles or something like that, or like some kind of a feudal Japanese look. And then there are others that look like space astronauts, like you see in some of the ancient statues on Ancient Aliens. What this is, and it's just like J. Michael Straczynski wrote into Babylon 5, they're called encounter suits. And this not only negates energy entanglements, this negates diseases like a hazmat suit, viruses, contaminants, toxins. Some races will just use jewelry like the ancient Mayans do, the Lanyalosians do this. Lenin Verso just wore a necklace one time, and rings, it fixed all of this. J. Michael Straczynski, if you ever saw anything of Babylon 5, the Vorlons and the Shadows and other races wore these suits, these ancient races, and they eventually show humanity getting to a stage that's like this. And this is where ascension is negated, because it's really changing your perspectives and your perceptions. You must always ground, not put yourself up into a soul trap type of situation. I always say grounding within your I am presence within the better parts of your avatar and oversoul, and staying in the here and now. The encounter suit is, and you saw its relevance in a very poignant episode where the character of Kosh saves Sheridan from falling to his death. He jumps out of his suit when the character of Delenn tells him to please go save Sheridan from falling. And he jumps out, and he looks almost like an energy being, like an angelic being. Every single person that saw him saw their own deity, because it was based on their own perception and perspective, their own biased belief systems. If you go into it with something, you're going to actually see, the thing that you're expecting. People, even humans, saw Jesus, they saw Buddha, they saw Krishna, they saw all of these things. And he warned that would happen because of the vibration that he was on. But Sheridan saw him for what he really looked like. He had an elongated skull. He looked kind of like Akhenaten when he saw him. Brings him to the ground, and then Kosh disappears. And he goes into his suit. Sheridan goes, "Thank you for that. You saved my life." Kosh says one very poignant statement to him. He goes, "I must leave you right now. Too many people saw me. I have to rest." Meaning he got entangled, and he had to shred all that other junk off him. Because meaning, like the laws of thermodynamics are for temperature, the laws of energy, almost like a thermodynamic kind of thing, is for energy. It goes from from slower to faster, and things will cling to them like a magnet. So that was an absolutely 100% true depiction there. What is being said though with the encounter suits, absolutely true. I've actually seen this for myself, just like a human would need a space suit or a hazmat suit, either in space or in a chemically ridden area or some toxin ridden area here on Earth. It's no different, or nuclear contaminated site of some kind. So I think we are good to move on to the last one.
Yeah, the last question. Are there giants in Antarctica?
Yes, this was Thorsen again. He seemed to dominate the board. This happens where one will do a little bit more than the others. Yes, my dear, there are. Buried since the time of the first flood. Some have been found, while some still lay buried. Also, some are more like the Jotun variety, meaning cannibals, while others are more working class people, like the builder giants of the megalithic structures. That is all for now. Thorsten and Jotun is Scandinavian or Old Norse or Viking for giant. From the times of the Ragnarok, these were the beings that Loki aligned with to try to conquer Asgard. So the Jotun are still exist in certain pockets, and also have been some of the forest people and other groups have been mistaken for these, and also orcish like Neanderthal and ghoul forms. They might have a slight cousinship, but they're not the same. The Jotun are who are being referred to here are the giants buried in Antarctica. Those would have been the builders of different structures, the builders of megalithic everything. Those are also the Cyclops of Greek mythology that would just throw stones at boats and things of that nature. That is what I'm talking about. I know there's some still in a part of Iceland. I've remote viewed this myself, and there's some sporadically. There's some in Peru that chase people out of the mountains. There's also good beings there as well. And I know there's a few scattered across the globe, but there's not many Jotun actually left, from what I understand. So I know here. I know I set it up to where this will make this show differ from other Q&As, because now someone is going to talk here at the end of this. So this sets it apart from the older series that we did. So as I said before, or as we said before, I am going to kind of systematically go through the old episodes. You will see those reappear on both the YouTube and the Lifting Rumble. My YouTube, which is at Christopher S. Jacobs, and on Rumble, the Lifting, one word. So all pertinent links will be in the descriptor. So new channel, and who would that be? Thorsten has been really dominant today. Normally you don't see him very much. He's like an elusive, like he goes like the Sasquatch. That's Isaac that said that. So, and this is Isaac's brother Thorsten. These two look very similar to myself, except Isaac is about 7 feet tall and has red hair and a beard and a mustache, and Thorsten looks pretty much like me, just slightly more buff. So the more in shape version of me here. So all right, Thorsten, and the irony, before somebody makes a comment here, the irony is not lost on me that he is an MD, or was here, and his name is Thorsten. If anybody read Marvel Comics, they would know the reference I'm making with Thor. When he loses his memory, becomes an MD and has dreams about being Thor, God of Thunder. So I am not, the irony has not been lost on me with that. So, and how do you know I didn't plan it that way? That's what so, yeah, he's even wearing a MD Esh. He's shown me what he wore here. He's actually back on Lonulus with Isaac. So, and yes, Fuma, yes, he goes where they all wear the same gay jumpsuits. Yes. Okay. Like the circus performer looking attire. We don't have to, because we're covered in hair. Okay. And this is how you know they're good folks. They joke around. So the bad guys don't do this crap. So they do, but they're stupid. Thorsten says, okay. No, my word is retard, actually. Okay. Benevolent thorns, true benevolence, no. So it's not. Yes, it has been quite some time since I have spoken on this set of programs. The last time I spoke was on an older GIC. Let's update that, shall we? By actually no pun intended, diagnosing this particular problem that you are now coming out of. I wish to diagnose, and I will not give away personal details, but you have since not only excommunicated people and energies and things from your life that would have reappropriated your timeline that were anchoring it, but now you have welcomed back those that were misperceived as dark. And that weight holds back an appropriate timeline, and you are existing on a particular frequency that could be stagnating you. Remember, in this instance, what you hold back is what creates your timeline. Even if you do not know what this is exactly, you then hold yourself back. Now, are the oppressors doing it? Absolutely. This is not being contested. However, as what was said in the Matrix, you are always going to be faster and stronger. They were referring, or Morpheus was referring to AI, which is still true, by the way. In this, except in some rare instances where they're actually sentient. But in this, what holds you back is usually you. Case in point, if you have entanglements that will not leave, things that will not correct themselves, repeating loops, you either are cursed by an external source, or you are subconsciously cursing your own path. This is generally what's going on. And the reason I bring this up is because you see how this show has come back mysteriously. It is because the energy from him getting rid of the older GICs that he was recently doing, the old stuff, that we encouraged him to go through and just get rid of sight unseen. Apparently he doesn't know what sight unseen means because he's kept them with them. But notice even that small energetic change seeping from the cells. See, the cells hang on to these, especially if you have a psionic field that is very rapid. Your cells will get flushed through constantly. Your own body holds on to these things, just like you have a little, like say, nodule, something that hurts, that you might be holding an emotion towards. That's why Reiki masters get rid of that little nodule of emotion. Imagine an entire body being that. One thing held on to that is misplaced in a hyper psionic person, it will affect your entire existence. It will orbit you like a moon, or like a planetoid or a meteorite. Not unlike people that have been through the projects and time travel projects. He says it's kind of like the Pike thing with the crystal, essentially, where he was constantly bound to the wheelchair timeline kind of thing. It's not quite that dramatic, by the way, but it is where he couldn't change that timeline unless it made something worse, like a weird butterfly Mandela effect thing. Yeah, yes, the concept is true, but they over dramatized it. With this, you get rid of the thing, like that little Princess and the Pea thing in the back where you think it is. It is actually amplifying outward in front of you and creating a wall. Within that manifestation, that wall always comes to meet you. It is because it is an undealt with truth that seems like it is a darkness. You must look into these dark corners of your mind and in your heart space and soul to release these energies. A physical thing can hold on to this. Even a computer file can hold on to these curses. You ran into cursed voicemail file back in Arizona. Once you got rid of the physical manifestations, that also got rid of the energies that held on to that moment in time. The same goes with photographs. It goes both ways. That person's energy can be there, and also the person can be holding on to it with an entanglement. It's always an entanglement. When you change these things, you dramatically alter the timeline in which you sit. He felt this a few days ago. I will not go into personal, but today he spoke to someone that was actually different than how he left him. It is because of a timeline shift and a wrongful, unjust set of events that then was gotten over very quickly. Timeline change. Now, I must take care of something and then we go to questions. There are interlopers attempting to unjustifiably I must get rid of something. He is not the only one that can do the magic tricks against attachments. It is because also his cells are leaching a particular scent, not body odor. Isaac, stop it. You did this crap on me too. Now, They let off a particular scent that during the dark nights of the soul releases, or just prior, and during a trapped dark night of the soul, can and will attract garbage. Now, with that, I will answer questions.
So this whole process, of course, that you're talking about, which affects everybody, by the way, it is something
Every
that
person.
every single person must kind of look at their life, look at things, again, get rid of things we say no longer serve you. If you're looking at something from the past and it's bringing you nothing but pain and makes you upset, why do you still have it?
People, places, and things all the same.
All the time. And so, to look at these things for yourself and to understand that I don't see anywhere in our lifespans, anyone currently on earth, that don't need to kind of continually do this kind of growth and looking at things and shedding of things. What I found interesting, what you were just saying, because I would say that for anybody, but what was really interesting that I think, again, if the audience didn't hear that clearly, is it seems to have an extra special effect if you have, if you're growing your psionics.
Yes, because it is a amplified amplifier, therefore it will affect the outwardly world more. Think the movie Forbidden Planet, where the scientist enhanced his intellect, not understanding that there was this seepage from the cells. In this case, it was more like latent introns, like in Star Trek, where they activated the latent introns that Barclay got a T cell virus inoculation for, and it activated all the mutations. Similarly, in the mind, everyone has ties to some predatory self somewhere. In an evolutionary state, whether artificially induced or not, there are still weird, instinctual type of things that have been weeded out, either good ones through belief, like religious ones, unfortunately, like some sexual types of good ones. Then there are other ones that were, say, sexual deviancy, like the witch tried to instill, or there are other things, some such like this. Whereas it is automatically there. In Forbidden Planet, when he put that on his head and increased his intellect, he increased his psionic abilities. There was a monster that projected from that he didn't even know was him, because he did not look into the deep, darkest recesses of instinct and into the feral nature of the human body. This actually happens as someone evolves. That psionic capability, it's the same effect as in Forbidden Planet. Your monster projects out there whatever your shadow is. The brighter the light, the darker the shadow. In this, that's a famous Batman quote, by the way, thank you, Isaac. In this, the animated series, the Kingpin character said this, but it is a very true statement. Whereas the brighter the light, the darker the shadow, or the brighter the image, the darker the negative. In this, you could be haunting yourself with a poltergeist, projection, and or tulpa, and you would never know it. You would be bringing in other things, drawing in other things like catnip, and you would never know it because it's in the deepest, darkest recesses of the mind and the energy. Just say SSP people have this problem because it's forgotten histories, like also with your alters, for instance. They were projecting outward based on memories you had no access to currently. It's because it was held back. It was unnaturally held back. The mind wants to return to a state of balance and wholeness. So does the soul and the mind want to work together as one. It's the natural state of everything, balance. If something is unbalanced, the soul and the oversoul will project it outward like a movie projector. If your movie projector brightly shines bright like a star, there is a certain responsibility. You've heard the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility. Yes, a nod to Spider-Man, Isaac, thank you. In this, that's still true because it becomes a responsibility at that point, an obligation and a necessity to do your shadow work and to get rid of viruses in the DNA or ancestral curses, things of that nature. And that was occurring to him today. Ancestral curse, also viruses in the DNA, and shadow work of lies from the past, and tighter circle, deeper roots. It was all the same. This is why, also getting rid of those files, this is why he felt seeping from the cells. Do you think just a regular computer file would have that kind of an effect? on the human energy? Mm-mm. It is because there is a tie to something like that that no longer needs to be in your current reality. Therefore, go to the timeline you're meant to be on.
So thank you. This whole concept is very interesting because again, in the experience that Chris had in generalities, he was going back to visit with a person he thought he had closed a door on and was actually going back and re-looking at that with this person.
Mhm.
However, there are times when doors should be closed and just left closed. Do you agree with that?
Yes, yeah, that hence the tighter circle, deeper roots. But sometimes the door can remain closed or seemingly remain closed temporarily and must be opened again at a time that it is meant to.
So I find this interesting because again, you walk a fine line of just, looking at something that, most people would ponder everything. Should I be looking at this again? And then they get into the circling pattern of constantly doing that. So my question to you is, what will a person feel like when maybe they should really, really look at something? What are some of the ways that they're going to feel versus how will they feel if they really need to keep it closed?
The bad guys will always exploit this and make it far worse, make it a mountain out of an anthill. Supposedly, in this, people will feel hyper depressed, hyper anxious, hyper angry, want to pace constantly, want to constantly always be doing something, have no form of relaxation skills whatsoever. Now, this doesn't always account for if they descend from a warrior type society or from one. Warrior type societies generally have this particular trait in abundance. But it doesn't mean that's bad. It just means that that's where that came from. If they try to relax, they feel insane. This is how he was. But that can be easily overcome in some instances through meditative practices and actually sometimes forcing yourself to do what's basically bow to the seemingly absurd. Let's just put it that way. Some people say surrender to the flow. I don't like that, and neither does he. It is more like just use your intuitive self to know when this is necessary. It's one of those know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. This is that kind of thing. You must know this in order to defeat the nightmares or the darkness of the soul, or the dark night of the soul. When someone needs to let go of something, these things get far worse. Then they become very vulnerable to attacks. They become very vulnerable to even the slightest infraction upon them. Hairline trigger. These are the signs that someone is not dealing with something.
So in general, if I'm hearing you correctly, I'll just give an example. If you've closed the door on someone that you've really decided I don't want to have a relationship anymore, and you may think of it every now and then, but you still remain quite comfortable with that decision, that you're not hemming and hawing about it, that you're like, you look at it for a brief second and you're like, no, it really needs to stay that way for the health of everybody involved, then don't look, then you're fine.
You're fine at that point if it's a
If you're
firm,
really doing that and you're feeling that way, and again, you're not hemming and hawing over it, you're just like, no, it just needs to be
very
that way.
different, very different.
Very different versus this other person is going to rummage in your head. They're going to constantly make you angry. You're not at peace with it.
Yes.
Maybe those are the types that you would maybe need to relook at.
And in this instance, it was constantly humming in the background, you see, with himself for it was over a decade in the background, creating like, say if you were to put a phone receiver to another phone receiver and it would have the weird noise. That's essentially a feedback loop, is what that was, is because of the sound frequencies coming from two phone receivers. Think of that kind of noise in the energy. That kind of cocktail rings the dinner bell before demonic entities. They love that noise in the energy. Think also kind of like a dial-up modem sound. That's actually the sound of a weird ill connection somewhere, or something trying to connect. That's why you heard that when it connected to the internet. This rings the dinner bell for certain beings. If it's over a lengthy period of time, you're going to wonder why you are getting attacked quite often. In certain instances where you've made enemies like himself, they will like nothing more than to widen that chasm and exploit a dark night of the soul. Dark nights of the soul, they eat them for breakfast. This is why you must hasten, not force, but hasten your journey. It's one of those things where if you're walking through hell, keep going, like the song says. So don't stop. Don't get your feet burned on the hot coals. Go over the coals. That way, you will piss them off more than you realize. They might bitch slap you a couple times, and then they are done. They will go on to somebody else that's whining and crying about something else. In this instance, this is the best medicine, is to get through that. And some people might say, easy for you to say, you're on another world or another planet. Same difference where I am. We are just like yourselves. We are no different than you. We have misgivings. We have nightmares. We have traumas. We have tantrums. I'm pointing to Vesta at this point. And we have daily lives. Children, spouses, wives, husbands, all of these types of situations. It is not too different from yourselves, even though you have extra shit on top of it. It makes no difference. The same rules still apply, even to overage. So, and overage still has to abide by a certain set of rules to where you can't circle the toilet forever. It still applies. You're working out soul history that maybe you've been taken as a slave one too many times, or the soul trap nonsense, or the fake incarnation cycle, whatever. It's still the same process. The soul is still working this out. It can work it out in multiple avatars through the multiverse, or a couple within the same timeline branch set. Within the timeline branch set, you don't think that the same oversoul can operate in the same spot? Wrong, because you are flipping multiple timelines a second here. And what happens? You intersect another aspect of self. One could argue that since we're all one, that's the same. Yeah, maybe, but no, not completely. Where then maybe you have another one that is operating, doing something that this you cannot. When he discovered, like that guy that drove off the pier that time, and if he found out that was another aspect, that's because it was one timeline passing over to another, and he and you guys intersected that timeline to where you saw that energy that no longer belonged being taken by that person to the other side. That's why he could relate, because all that dark night of the soul accumulated in that avatar. People always compare this to the Jesus story where he took all of his sins to his Father in heaven. That can happen, or as he likes to say in the Pathfinder Legend of the Ghost Warrior movie, where Russell Means' character takes Carl Urban's garbage and says he takes it on, and then he takes on all his karma. Yeah, that was a slightly racist move in that movie. But in this, the concept is sound. Even though the Jesus thing didn't happen, it is still sound, where somebody can take that. The oversoul may get sick of a particular avatar not doing something, so shunts it off to something else and get rid of it more quickly. Because sometimes a particular avatar can't get the thing done within the time frame that is needed, so it needs to shunt off to a different timeline for just a second, take care of it, and now we can move forward. Hence what happened today.
So again, it's a very interesting concept, because if I've heard...
He still did it, though. It was within this avatar. I wanted to specify that, yes.
Right. But in general, it's a very interesting thing. It's kind of like people that are working on their psionics sometimes will want to distract themselves by real life to just work on their psionics. And what we're saying is that if you tend to do that, there could be things that are then amplified in your life that could actually not work out to your best issue. So again, it's so easy for people, no matter what they're doing, to get themselves distracted and not being balanced about all the purposes of why we're here and what we're doing. And then they don't realize, especially because there is a thought process. The higher you work on your psionics, this other stuff is less, and it's not necessarily true. A small amount of it ends up being more because
Yes.
it is amplified.
Yes, think of for a minute if this is how you know you have an amplified set of senses. It's like the whole Daredevil thing where he could when he gets his powers that everything's really like overly such like an autistic person would be with all that, even though that's alien experimentation and also higher, lower, or faster, slower moving densities and whatnot. What I'm trying to say is, have you ever been in a situation where somebody's like making a clicking noise or filing their nails or crunching on something or something like that, and you are just hearing this tiny little thing overbloated like somebody is just plugged it into a subwoofer? That is that's psionic sensitivity. That's what autistic people experience 24/7. High functioning autistics are essentially hyperpsionic. So that any little thing, like somebody smacking their lips or blinking or doing something like what they perceive as creepy, is like something normal to somebody else. Like say, in The Simpsons, where they had all the students blinking their eyes at once, and the principal said that's a good sound. Where he said Principal Skinner said the sound the kids were making with the blinking. Some people find that annoying when people do the sticky-eyed blink or their nose whistles, like you see Homer seeing somebody's nose, or Homer's nose is whistling and Flanders loses his shit. That's because these are examples of hypersensitivity. That person's not actually doing anything wrong why that their nose is whistling. Yes, it's irritating as hell. Like somebody's going or doing something like that, or clicking or licking their lips or something. But the only way you're hearing that at all within that type of loudness is hyperpsionic sensitivity. These are why certain people cannot be out in public, because imagine 1,000 people doing that, or a couple hundred people at Walmart or something, or even the noises of, say, the checkouts or self checkouts with the doot or anything like that. For some people, it's that sound is deafening. And because of the psionic manipulation going on and psionic dampening, your ability wants to fight through it. The other thing wants to bring you down. What happens at that point? You can't function in normal life situations. You can turn the dial down and up and down under regular circumstances, but sometimes somebody else wants to turn it back up and fuck with you. So it's important that you ground constantly and keep watch on these things constantly. We're not saying to the anal retentive or autistic type of scenario, or Rain Man, where you have to count every little thing or look at every little thing. No. He's recently done this by, when I talk about annoying behavior, his brain is actually starting to read all the periods, checkpoints, and colons. We want to slap him for this. But this is what I'm talking about. You get to a hypersensitive type of thing, and your brain sees every little tick mark, every little thing. And if you know the names for those tick marks, no matter what language, your brain is going to read and hear and say every one of them. There's actually something else going on there with him as well, because of some AI intrusions, but there's also not, I don't want to say medical condition, but it's also another form of hypersensitivity, is muscle and nerve tissue has him doing this, and it was forming a weakness there. It's the muscle undulating that goes through it, causes some of this. But with if it's healthy and you have a heightened psionic field, you'll still slightly do it. That's a form of OCD, or if somebody has to like put a book straight, or has to like his mother had to dust the TV screen when he put a smiley face on it, things of that nature, or he would pull one little video game out to fuss with her and stuff like that. Hypersensitive people get severely ADHD and OCD and anal retentive about things as they get older. So, and also can be inherited that way too, from mother-daughter, father-son, mother-son, father-daughter. It can go this way. So, this is what's going on. If you see any of these traits, it is always related to hypersensitivity, high psionics in some form, fashion, or shape or form.
Well, one last question, which wasn't on there, but I am curious about, because of people that I talked to and everything. Here we are, and basically tomorrow will be the 14th of March, 2025. So kind of like a little energy report. I mean, I know here where we are on the East Coast, we've had storms come through higher. The barometric pressure which does put pressure on people. So if you have aches, pains, arthritis, things like that, it is going to increase that a little bit.
Mhm.
But, it almost feels like, from my perspective, and you can tell me, am I just sensing that? Or is there also maybe I don't know, upping of the compression that's now being put on people to kind of just make life a little bit harder right now? Is that going on too?
Yes, you're hearing an amplification of people's thought forms, the barometric pressure, and the way the energies are. Some of it is your AI, 5G, the compression. Some of it is the anxiety surrounding your current political theater. You're getting the thought forms. During the times of both elections, it was being amplified through your binary network, and you were getting hit like crazy because some people were terrified, and some people were like, "Yay!" And it was like that for both sides in both elections. You probably noticed it around those times. People get very anxious because they don't know who is going to be doing what next. This is what's going on now. You are feeling some of the tulpa or thought forms or poltergeist projections of people that are scared out of their mind wits right now. There are others that you're feeling an uplifting because of people that are happy right now. You're getting that en masse. If people would collectively just go for world peace or a meditative state, like what was done on the Washington, D.C. Mall, where world crime went down by a little bit, you would see all of this shit end. But that's not going to unfortunately happen for a minute. But it will eventually be learned. As the timelines go, it will be learned. You're at a crossroads right now of which way you want, New World Order or world unity. That's what you're up against right now. And people know you're at a fork in the road right now, timeline wise. You have to choose wisely, and as Gandhi said, become the change you wish to see. Yes, it's cliche, but it's more true now than ever before. Do you want that? What do you want, and what do you not want? This is what is being amplified. Both political sides, let's just say, are viewing the country and the world vastly different from one another. It has never been that big of a schism at any time in the United States' history, Canada or Mexico, or in the world for that matter, for the United States, that is. This has never happened before, and this is what is scaring the shit out of everybody.
Well, thank you. And, again, put out, obviously, as you're saying, put out what you want. Make sure you're putting out the energies. I think what's weirder now.
Uncreate the bad guy's path, too. That's another one.
Okay. And I think what's weird is that right now, at least from the way I'm feeling and from what I'm hearing from different people of how they're feeling, people are translating it into physical illness, I think, or thoughts of
They're channeling it, and it translates to physical illness.
Yeah, that they're feeling physically ill. They're feeling like things are starting to unravel within them. And I guess I just want to say that it's way more than that. It's the energies of everything. I want to say this shall pass. Just give it some time and let it settle. But I'm glad you explained it a little bit more in depth to understand. So if you're feeling this way, just listen, and I hope you've heard all of the dynamics that are contributing to it. Try to stay focused on what you want to see happen. Get outside, breathe the air. The flowers and things are starting to bloom. Look for things, look for the squirrels, look for the birds that give you peace, and touch a tree or hug a tree, whatever you need, do that, and just understand that we are feeling and perceiving a lot more. You may be doing that more than you even realize, and it's the pressures of all of that are kind of making you feel this way.
Yes, this can make you physically ill, and Isaac, of course, makes the joke, yes, this too shall pass, get it? So it will affect all aspects of the body. It will affect aspects of the mind. And you must find recharge moments wherever you can get them. I know that, of course, being there on Midgard, it's very hectic. This is understood. And with all the hectic energies, don't culminate around tech forever and ever. If you are a tech person, find your way out of that. I know if that's your passion, great. But do not go this close to a screen all the time. You will get irradiated, whether you know it or not. So, at this point in time, I must say that you must find decompression time. It's great. He was telling him the other night with the files. He kept going with it and kept going. And he warned him that And Isaac warned him that eventually this would have some slight blowback if he didn't stop for the evening. He kept going, and he got punched in the face. So so you got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. Great that he's going through all these files. Great that he's dealing with Dark Nights of the Soul. This is what's needed. But at the same time, know that there are beings out there very angry that he's done this, as well as when he learned how to uncreate their narratives, like he said in Arizona, when some draconian entities were instilling a narrative in his head about where you died in the scenario. He came back and rewrote the scenario and then basically capped it off with his name as executive producer and director, and then faded to black. That's the same as what I'm saying. Brilliant with that. Use that as a class sometime, because that is absolutely brilliant. Because Draco loved to form narratives in people's heads, but it is still based on an already instilled fear. It is still based on an already instilled entanglement. It is still based on aspects of the Dark Night of the Soul, remembered or forgotten. So that narrative helped greatly. It staved them off, but still you must understand the root reason for the seed that was there that they tried to make bloom to begin with, or treat and make the tree die, whichever analogy you want to go with, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, any last words before we end the show tonight?
Yes, the reason he noticed also that we were slightly more clear. No, when there's fuzz and things are all like jiggly and screwed up, you're fucked up somewhere. So it's you, but yes, other beings can be dampening things, absolutely. But majority of it is still you. People find that as a hard pill to swallow, no pun intended, because MD, doctor, get it. But in this, yes, Isaac, I'm capable of jokes too. But in this, he's not the only clown, I suppose. I'm more stoic, he's more an idiot, but okay. The clown, red nose, the whole red hair. But anyway, in this, it's always based on something that is held back in the self, that then is again attracting outwardly attention. Now, again, can something be haunting your environment? That's absolutely legit. Yes, but what are they sniffing out? Yes, the high psionic field. But what else are they sniffing out? Just like ghouls can smell death and somebody dying, just like a dying heart or heartbeat, like you said, with a heartbeat in the back type of thing, like a bat with echolocation. Think of echolocation from other entities that are smelling something else. Not body odor, Isaac, yes, but it's a form of it, actually. He's not entirely wrong. He's just being goofy, but there is a musk. No pun intended there, but there is a musk that people are emanating that maybe they should take a second look at and bathe in that respect. So he's not wrong. He's just going about it goofily. So I will disconnect now, but this is why I was hoping to have this conversation today, and we are thankful that this Q&A format has been resurrected. So thank you, and goodbye, and blessings to everybody. All right. Oof. Okay. Yeah, this was actually very interesting. I'm actually glad we brought this back, and we'll continue to do the end channel at the end of these as well, to discuss either what the questions were about or something else they wish to discuss. It's more of an open forum for benevolence at that point. So yes, I know Thor is in true benevolence, no conflicting agendas. I understand. That's very important because it segregates out that creator energy that's true benevolence source creator. And true benevolence, no conflicting agendas actually means those that would fit the frequency by which you happen to be. Now, if you're carrying some Dark Night of the Soul, again, you might attract some little like horse flies somewhere or some flies going to poop, but that's what he was talking about. So yes, and Isaac goes, it's always about the poop with you, isn't it? These are they're basically clowns, folks. They might as well be wearing the little dingawalls and all this other stuff. But anyway, so I think we're at a good stopping point here. Do you have anything else to add?
No, we just have our final affirmation and blessing from Fuma, which says, to all we say analum always, or in your language, calm always. peace and love from the forest people. And that again was given by Fuma.
Yes, and he couldn't be any more right, because that is the state by which Thorsten was speaking about. So at this point, I will say thank you for watching this episode. Whatever questions you have, go back to the beginning of this episode, about the Facebook group, to our email, and I will literally put all pertinent links into the descriptor. But remember, send the questions in. We are wanting to do these regularly again. So thank you, everybody. And I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas at this moment in time. So thank you, everybody. Bye-bye now. Okay, good case in point with the religious obligation that we were talking about. I've mentioned this several times, but it's good to put this on a Q&A to keep it relevant, you know. So the woman that got on Facebook and said that she was inviting her ex-husband over for dinner, basically said her intuition told her not to, but since she was a Christian woman, she was obligated to do so. That night they had to take, the cops had to take him away. So the difference there is the religious obligation does not count. It's your intuition every single time. You have to have balance there. Just like there was a relation of ours that basically said God was telling her that she couldn't go to casinos anymore. No, or couldn't do our craft anymore. I'm in complete disagreement with that. You have to have fun in life and balance things out. I don't agree with the religious obligation crap. Any religion that puts those kind of rules on you, that's control. That's a control mechanism. Every time, that's a red flag, red cherry bulb, every single time. But that's what I wanted to put out there to add to this Q&A. You're going to see more of these little videos I did over the last 2 years, since 2019. I did audio and video ones that I will slowly add to the Q&As, so I don't overwhelm the viewers. So, or I may even do one of the Q&A episodes where just a bunch of them in there, and I'll just mark what the question is, you know, in the descriptor or something like that. So watch for those things. I want to make sure all of this material is out there. So, and also, I'm going to be putting my Marvel and Star Trek material out there. Watch for that. More video game material on The Witcher 3, Game of the Year Edition, Wild Hunt. Any of those things, look on the video game thing. Pal World, any of the stuff about the Soul Trap, Pokemon technology, you know, with the, or Pocket Monster technology, so like capture technology, yeah, that stuff. Look at the video game Rumble for that. You're going to see all of that. So, on there. So, it is 8 for, we're revamping. So, it is, actually, revamping is the wrong choice of words. Turning back the hands of time. And the incident in question today, I won't go into personal. It was an old friend that I'd parted ways with that we started speaking again. I had wrong expectations and assumptions about the person based on what someone else told me. Wrong. My intuition over the years was telling me I was wrong. I didn't listen. So, it was another party that had convinced me, another family member that had convinced me otherwise. So, I'm not going into personal details, but people here get what I'm saying and can read between the lines. So, I do want to say 2025 is a 9, and this would, and that number is technically a completion. One door closes where another one opens, and also with somebody that Thorsten was referring to on both sides, with Joanna and myself. One was writing off somebody, and one was rekindling something with somebody. It was tighter circle, deeper roots. That's what did it. So that particular spell is very potent. It will put you put people in your circle that are of the like vibrations and discard anything that doesn't belong. Sometimes it's somebody rejoining that you've written off, and somebody that is being that's staying written off, and I don't want to say discarded. That's the wrong choice of words. Being excommunicated from your circle. So it is 8:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Thank you.